Franchising is effectively a 10 to 20 year relationship where you have to decide if you're going to go all in on like 3 hours worth of interactions. And as a result, both parties are changing during those 10, 20 years. And all that's okay as long as communication lines are open. And if you have shared values, you're at least going to be able to figure out, all right, how do we do this the right way if the relationship's not working?
All right, Josh, thank you so much for joining me. I had no idea that you were this close. I could have worked something else out. I would gladly gone over to Jersey for something, anything, for this, for some food. We could have done anything.
I would have come to Westchester, man. Next time.
That's for sure. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you're super busy. Big Chicken is on absolute fire. But today I want to talk about something that we talk about a lot, franchise businesses, and a lot about how franchisees and franchisors can really hone in their marketing. And I think one thing that none of them do is personal branding. So you've led big brands like Big Chicken, obviously before, and other brands. How have those experiences helped shape your personal brand?
Look, at the end of the day, right, most people don't recognize they have a personal brand, So you live in this way where like people will start with trying to do things that they think please others. And by doing that, you please no one, right? Yeah. So a few years back, someone I really trust in the business was like, hey, you've worked on all these big brands like Peeps and Budweiser and Kingsford Charcoal and all these Frank's Red Hot, all these really, really big brands.
Classics.
What are your brand values? And I'm like, crap, right? I'm like, what do you mean, man? My job's like get results, run a team. They're like, nah, we look at your LinkedIn, like you have brand values of like the Josh Halpern brand. And the weird thing is if you're like under the age of 38, you don't really think of yourself this way, but most mid to late stage millennials and then all Gen Z and all Gen Alpha, everyone views it as like you're your own brand. Oh, yeah. And you're doing a brand collaboration with your employer. It's like, no, I'm not. I have an employment contract if you're lucky, right? You have an employment contract. But no, it's like this mixed brand. So what all these big brands, working on all these big brands, what they taught me was simply put, the minute you deviate from the authenticity of your brand is no longer. Yeah. So you better really understand the authenticity of your personal brand and then live and die by it, right? Like the Budweiser, when you think about Budweiser, you think American heritage, you think Clydesdales, you think patriotism. If all of a sudden all those things went away and it was like some weird thing, you'd be like, that's not Budweiser. What the hell is? So the same is true with all of us as leaders and people. We try to be as consistent as we can on the brand values we have if we truly understand.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that, because a lot of times if I ask that question or ask something even similar to another franchise executive, and particularly in a leadership position, they kind of they get very skilled at diverting to the company line.
Now I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to skid into this, but you know what I'm trying to say. You're into the skid.
That's it.
No, it's, but you have to. I've known Shaquille since 2015. We've worked together since 2021. One of the real reasons why I think him and his business team and I wanted to work together is the one area that Shaquille and I are very similar is we believe in this notion of love and accountability. That's a very core value for me, right? Like I love everybody. I love my franchisees. I love my suppliers. I love the people in our organization. I love the random guy I meet on the street, right? But in order to truly have love in a business setting, you need to be accountable to each other, right? Like otherwise it's just like drinking buddies.
Yeah.
There may be franchisees that I would have no problem having a beer with, but if they're not accountable to their business, if they're not accountable to my brand, and if I'm not accountable to their business and I'm not accountable to my brand, this doesn't go too far, right? No. So this notion of like love and accountability is really how Shaquille and I got to become friendly back in 2015, and his agent Perry Rogers and I got really close over the years. And we wanted to do this because one of our biggest core values was very authentic to the other.
Yeah, and I was reading that his belief in even getting started with this concept was he didn't feel authentic in speaking about another brand. In all the types of opportunities he gets to pitch products, he just didn't feel right about this chicken. Is that a true story?
I mean, yeah, look, at the end of the day, you said it best, right? Like, you know when an executive is towing the company line versus when it's their message, right? Like, with him with endorsement deals, everything he's ever done, the General Insurance, Papa John's, you name it, it comes from a very authentic place. There
Yeah.
was a competitor he could have taken more money from if that was what it was all about. For him, it needed to be, I want to put my name on it and they'll pay me to do it. But it starts with, I want to put my name on it, right?
Yeah.
And he and I are very similar in that way, where it's, hey, we want to put our name on things because we really, really believe in them and because they have a special place in our heart. And it just makes it way easier to lead when that's what you're trying to achieve. So for him, his whole childhood was rooted in fried chicken and his mom making dinner and everything else, and them sitting around the table doing homework and laughing. And Mama Lucille would whip up some dinner, and that was childhood. So for him doing an endorsement deal of any sort when it came to chicken would be like violating, his childhood. He wasn't going to do that.
I mean, and Shaq has been, I think, if nothing else, authentic from the beginning, right? He's always seemed like he was flying exactly who he was, which was refreshing, I think, from an athlete's perspective at the time anyway. So your personal brand now, how do you go about managing your personal brand, who you are, and Big Chicken? I mean, do they come together? Do you work on kind of separating them, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was fortunate. I came into Big Chicken. We had 2 units open and next to no headquarters staff, right? So I was able to build this team around kind of an ethos that was shared with Shaquille and myself and our board. But building teams for larger companies, it's you want to have diverse teams, diversity in thought, diversity in experience. But there's some collective ethos that I think is really important, collective values that, kind of transcend everything. You're either accountable or you're not. You're either going to make fact-based decisions versus opinion-based decisions, or you're not. You're either going to celebrate the team victories or you're not, right? Like, your background has nothing to do with those things, right? They are truisms that go over and above other organizations. You're either competitive as hell or you're not, right? Our organization, the way I lead, it's more, hey, we win or lose as a team, and if someone's bringing the team down, that's a very different story. We're not going to say, hey, you're number one, that guy's number two. So we all need to push each other to be the best we can possibly be. But that shared ethos is really what I've tried to build teams around my entire career. And it's rooted a bit in my values. But I've also found that my values are shared by a fair number of people, because people really want to be in a situation where the people around them are accountable, mutually accountable. They want to make the right decision. They want to celebrate. They want to work hard. They want to play hard.
Yeah.
They want to have this great experience, because at the end of the day, look, I've run multi-billion-dollar P&Ls. I've worked for different organizations. None of that is going to be what matters at the end of this career, right? At the end of the career, it's all about who are the people you did it with, and are you proud of the fact that you got to work alongside them every day?
Yeah, and seems like something you'd want to pass down, or in terms of pass down rather, to the franchisees. Like, is that something like the franchise sales team is focused on? Like, hey, make sure, we want to go have a beer with these guys. Are they actually good people? Like, what does that process look like?
We've gotten franchisees where on paper they are so great, and we're like, yeah, you're really not for this system, right?
Wow. Yeah.
We've gotten other franchisees that look at it and say, maybe they're less great, but we're like, this is our type of guy, right?
Yeah.
For us, we're still an emerging brand. I mean, look, we're at 48, 49 restaurants, something like that. We're emerging still, right? And in emerging brands, you have proof of concept, but you don't have proof of scale. And there are some franchisees who are like, I don't want to change anything. Yeah. I want to follow checklists for the next 10 years in a proven system. And I know on a good year, this is my sales, and on a bad year, this is my sales, and blah, 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 right? I want to participate in marketing co-ops for my region. I want to participate in buying co-ops for my region. You're not, those people are great.
Yeah.
Some of the best franchisees in the world are that way.
Right.
They don't belong in an emerging brand, right? An emerging brand is going to be, hey, I know we're going to change things. I know we're going to look at different things. Can you keep me up to speed on what's coming? If you need a pilot partner, please reach out to me. Can I have a line into you once a week or two to share with you what I'm seeing in store? So we really had to hone in on, all right, what are the shared values with our franchisees? And I have some franchisees that are in their stores every single day, more than I'm able to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we love those franchisees because even if they can't know 100% of what's happening in their store, they at least know the Family Feud board of stuff, good and bad, right?
Yeah, right.
I have other franchisees where I'm in their store just as much as they're in their store,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's a shared value thing,
Yeah.
right? I can't care more about their store than they do, right?
Yeah.
So it's very much ebbs and flows.
And that set of expectations, I mean, as difficult as it may be to like translate down, I think ultimately long term, I mean, you have to go through that process, right? Because I know that franchise sales process, not the easiest. So to sift through somebody and then get to the point where you pass on them, that's a big decision.
I view it a little differently, I think. It's like, I don't know if you married your sixth grade girlfriend or not, but most people didn't.
No, no.
And ultimately, every single girl you date or person you date, you learn a little bit more about yourself, and you learn a little bit more about these are the things I want or don't want, right, out of a relationship. Franchising is effectively a 10 to 20-year relationship where you have to decide if you're going to go all in on like 3 hours worth of interactions. It's basically like a reality TV show when you think about it, right? And as a result, both parties are changing during those 10, 20 years. And that doesn't make one party good and the other party bad, right? It's just the reality of the situation, right? As you grow as a system, what you want and what you value change a little bit. And as they grow as their system, what they want is going to change a little bit.
Right.
And all that's okay as long as communication lines are open. And if you have shared values, you're at least going to be able to figure out, all right, how do we do this the right way if the relationship's not working?
What is, everyone says authenticity and tell your story and all that. Sean, we were talking about off camera before, Sean Walchef is big on that, tell your story. How do you feel about individual franchisees sharing their story? Is that conflict with like the system? Is that a case where we don't want a personal brand? And I'm just asking just out of pure curiosity.
No, I don't think it. Well, again, it depends on your system and what you're trying to drive, right? A franchisee who says, this is why I was personally interested in this, or a franchisee who talks about their journey and how they led them to this moment, it strengthens your system, right? Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, like, I love a good origin story. Yeah. I want the origin story on our brands, very well known. I want the origin story on the people in the brand, franchisee, supplier, or franchisor side to be very well known, right?
Yeah.
People love origin stories. Perry Rogers, Shaquille's agent, he says all the time, no one buys what you're selling, they buy why you're selling it. And that goes both ways in this scenario, right? Like, why is a franchisee trying to sell their way into the organization, right? And why are we trying to sell our organization to a franchisee? So I think that level of authenticity is so key. And if you could focus on that middle of the Venn diagram where you share jointly the same point of view or the same values or the same reasoning, it just strengthens the whole dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I just feel like sometimes a lot of these groups are, if they did, I think there's hesitancy about who's carrying the flag, right? Even when you approve them, and then it's like, do we really want this guy out on TikTok talking about our brand and the behind stories? And I understand there's some things that you don't want to share, but I think that's why they kind of stick to the script. But I really think that would be super interesting. Yeah. I think that would actually attract a lot more franchisees to these concepts.
But, it just requires training, right? So it's, hey, we want you to be proud of your store. We want you to be promoting the store. But these are the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, right.
When you do this, you're off our values and you're really not portraying your own values the right way, right?
Yeah.
Training, no matter how tight you think your training is, it's not tight enough, right? And that doesn't mean how do you get more restrictive. It just means how do you make sure there's no loose threads, right? Yeah. And allowing your franchisees a voice while at the same time making sure there's no loose thread is a really great thing because your franchisee is a pillar of the local community way more than you're ever going to be.
Are you a growing franchise caught in the real estate trap? You need experienced real estate leadership to grow, but you're facing an impossible choice. You either have to hire a full-time director of real estate at $200,000 a year, or risk your brand's future with generic commercial brokers who don't understand the restaurant business, nor do they understand franchising. The cost of getting it wrong is staggering. Check this out. 72% of emerging brands cite real estate delays as their number one challenge, with each delayed opening burning through about $48,000 in lost revenue every single month. Poor locations don't just hurt the profits, they can permanently damage your franchise's reputation. That's where 10rep comes in. We've created a revolutionary solution that gives you senior level real estate expertise at a fraction of the cost for a full-time hire. Our flexible month-to-month model combines deep operational experience, cutting-edge AI, and nationwide network of franchise specialized brokers, all without the burden of salaries, benefits, travel, office expenses, or even long-term contracts. Join successful brands who trust 10rep to turn real estate from a growth challenge into a strategic advantage. Whether you need full service management or project-based support, we scale with you. Don't let real estate hold your franchise back. Visit www.10rep.co to learn how 10rep can help you scale smarter.
You know, people forget, like I spent a decade almost in alcohol prior to taking this job. Mm-hmm. The whole U.S. alcohol system is based on franchise law, right? All the distributors are basically franchisees, and you can never fire them, and they have the agreement forever, right? So it's like being married, right? And you don't even get to choose who you're married to because it's already been determined since like the early 1900s, right? But as a result, like they're independent business people. They need to be able to voice into the local community. They know their community way better than we're ever going to know, right? We understand our brand at a level they're never, ever going to know. Mm-hmm. How do you work together to hit the center of that Venn diagram where the two things come together?
Yeah. I mean, I love to hear you say that they're actually part of the community because, you know, my day job is I have a firm that works with franchisees and helping them do site selection. And so often is the case that, you know, you bump into that conversation with the landlord where they're like, oh, it's a first time franchisee. Well, let me see their financials. What's the deal? Who's the brand? And then I have to tell them like, hey, you know, if I'm really trying to push it, and it is a little bit of my job, but also the fact is this person lives in your neighborhood.
Right.
Like this is not some big corporate thing. This guy is starting up this business. He's got to pay for his kids' dance school. He's got to pay for his mortgage rent. So take that into consideration, right? And I think that aspect of it is often lost in the franchise process.
100%. Look, I mean, it's sort of when you think about it, franchising is it's an odd construct, right? Mm-hmm. Because on the one hand, you're an independent business person and you're the mm-hmm. customer of the franchisor. And on the other hand, you're an extension of the franchisor, right? Yeah. It's in the alcohol industry, they refer to it as a 3-tier system for a reason, mm-hmm. right? Because that middle tier has to simultaneously do what the franchisor wants them to do and please the guest. The franchisor, they're in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So it's a different dynamic for sure versus owning your own company, and you're joining an established system, but you're also joining your community, and you got to figure out the right way to do that together so that you're strengthening your franchise system, because the system is only as strong as the weakest franchisee, and at the same time you're strengthening the community and your reputation within it.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because that's a big piece that gets lost. And I was an independent restaurant owner for about 17 years before I got into this side of the business. So I have a soft spot because to me, franchisees, particularly first time franchisees, are like independent restaurant owners. They have the playbook, but that's really the only difference. All right. So we talked about personal branding. Shaq, you mentioned your relationship with Shaq and how you guys started in 2015. Got to imagine that his personal brand is going a long way in getting this off the ground. Were there any restrictions put on him, or was he just like, Shaq, go out there and do your thing?
No, look, at the end of the day, I mean, he works with a great team of people that make sure, you know, his brand is positioned the right way. Yeah. And I get hit with things all the time like, hey, his smile is a little crooked. Do you have one where his smile's not crooked? Or, hey, we don't like photos where his mouth is open and you can't see teeth or stuff like that, right? He has people taking care of him for all that stuff, right? But all the photos, everything, at the end of the day, it's a passion project for him. So people want to make sure, okay, like as long as his brand standards are being met, let's do what we need to do. The folks at Authentic Brands are fantastic.
Yeah.
His agent Perry Rogers is fantastic. Shaquille loves this so much. I can literally reach out to him and be like, hey, can you just throw on an iPhone some message if we need him to?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
he doesn't call me much. He FaceTimes me, which 4 years later is still a very jarring experience when
Yeah, I bet.
you're at like home in bed, it's like 11 o'clock at night and it's Shaquille O'Neal is FaceTiming you and you're like, sort of got to get this, it's a little different.
Yeah. Or if you're in a store or something and you're like, hey, sorry, I just got to grab this, people.
So he literally, we believe in work-life integration. It's one of our core values as a company because you can never really shut off, right? So it's like if you have to take your kid to practice, take them to practice. If you were on the road for 4 days and you need to like bring your dry cleaning in, like just do it. Like you don't ask, you just sort of go, right? And he called me. I was doing a couple errands after a road trip. And I was literally, to your point, online at a Panda Express. And he FaceTimes me and I'm like, And I pick up, I'm like, hey, Shaquille, what's up? He's like, where are you at? And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting lunch. And he's like, where? I'm like, dude, you're going to make fun of me. He's like, no, you got to tell me. And I'm like, I'm at Panda Express. And he starts dying of laughter. And then he says, turn me around to the woman at the counter. So I turn around and she's freaking out. And he's like, hey, this is my boy Josh. He'll have orange chicken fried rice and an egg roll. If he tries to change the order,
solid.
He'll have orange chicken fried rice and an egg roll. And I'm like, look, you got to have big fun. Big fun's one of our values.
I love that.
Work-life integration is one of our big values, and this notion of love and accountability together. We try to live by it as much as we can.
That's awesome. That lady's probably still, we'll tell that story till the day she dies.
Me too. Me too.
We'll see on the internet one way or the other.
That's right.
All right, so I got a couple of quick fire questions for you. We're going to start with stakeholders and investors. How do you balance, authenticity can mean a lot of things. How do you balance the authenticity when it comes to the expectations of those folks?
Look, at the end of the day, it's one of the things you can't cheat. I go into every situation fully understanding it's something for that situation.
Right.
If I try to change who I am solely to please someone, that day will be a hell of a lot earlier than if I just do the thing I know how to do the way I know how to do it. I continually try to evolve. We all do as people, but at the end of the day, when a situation's right or not right. And your board, if they truly want you to be the leader of the organization, they're not going to expect you to do something that's way off your brand. It's why they put you in there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So, I think the key thing is in the moment, making sure shortcuts aren't getting taken. And one of my favorite constructs is this guy, Aubrey Daniels. If you've not read his book, I would read this book. But ultimately, he talks about the ABCs, right? So we all have antecedents. So that's all your personal history. And then you have your behaviors. And behaviors are behaviors, right or wrong. And then you have consequences for that behavior. And consequences, people view it as a negative word, but a consequence could be positive or negative. And the only thing you can't do is exhibit a behavior where you don't accept the consequences for that behavior, positive or negative, right? If I'm being authentic to who I am and accepting the consequences positively and negatively for that behavior, more often than that, that's going to prevail. And I think that's true with most leaders, especially when times get tough. It's the ones that rapidly try to change who they are and give up their authentic self in tough moments. Yeah. They're the ones that get rolled first.
Yeah. That makes sense. Plus it adds like a pause in your head, right? And you can't flow. You can't be who you are if you have to constantly be thinking like, oh, shit, this guy's going to think I'm a whatever if I say this.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of leads into the next question. What is a mistake that you see or commonly see some of these franchise leaders make when it comes to their personal brand?
I think it's what you said earlier. It's just trying to fake it till you make it. Hey, I need to be corporate, I think people that know me know I have fairly good corporate gravitas, yet I don't change who I am to try to show that, right? It's I will tell people the first time they meet me, I'm a little quirky, right? Like I have fun idiosyncratic sayings I say and do little quirky things. And, I believe in love and accountability, and I believe in big fun, and I believe in making fact-based decisions, and I believe in celebrating people, and I believe in all of these things. It's the folks that are like, I need to check a list, I need to check a box, or I worked for someone and said, here's the checklist of things. There's no checklist of things, right?
Yeah.
It's some of the best leaders in the world have been quirky as hell, and their people would run through a wall for them. And some of the best leaders in the world rule with an iron fist, and it worked for them. And but the thing is, it worked for them. If you get like the fun loving guy that wants to be like iron fist, that doesn't work as well.
Yeah, no. And I think that's kind of not what attracts franchisees to a brand, right? Like, no. they want to have fun in this. They have that entrepreneurial spirit. So I think you mentioned before, it's like a reality show, and I still think that a franchise, and you guys, Big Chicken, God, you can run with this one. I think a franchise concept that can do a reality show around their brand, like the inner workings of the franchise, I think it would be a tremendous marketing tool.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know if you'd want the whole world to see everything that happens in a franchise system, all those conversations.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree. Look, it is a reality show. And at the end of the day, when a franchisee buys into a brand, all they're really buying into at that moment in time is I like the product and I like the executive team.
Yeah.
Especially on an emerging brand.
Yeah.
And especially like I won't do an item 19 until we're at least 50 units. I want to have a statistically significant sample size, 50 brick and mortar units.
Yeah, right.
Not counting arenas and all that stuff. Because I see some of these systems that have like 5 units open and are claiming a 4 million AUV. And that's because of the market that you're in. You're not going to get 4 million in Cincinnati. What are you doing, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's, at the beginning, they're buying into my sandwich and me and my team. That's what they're buying into. Right?
Yeah.
And if I try to fake them on who I am, or my team tries to fake them on who they are, we're starting a relationship on false pretenses.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so now I got a segment here called Restaurant Real Estate Reality Check. Now, you mentioned you are going to be in the market locally, checking out some stuff. But in this segment, I just really want to share practical insider tips related to maybe personal branding or real estate in general, because my company exists because I feel like there's a huge gap between the ability for particularly emerging franchisors to provide these services. It's cost prohibitive, time prohibitive. So anytime we can add value, I'd love for you to kind of share it. So is there an innovative strategy right now? I know there's a lot of tech, there's a lot of AI, but is there anything that you're using at Big Chicken that sort of you can point out that has been helpful in your site selection process?
Yeah, look, we have AI tools, and we have our site selection criteria and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we also try to build relationships with the major developers so that we can be proactive with those developers and see what's in the market.
That's it.
Yeah. Right? Like at the end of the day, it's a trust but verify business, right? So anyone who's like, AI tools, sweet. It says the dot should be right here.
Yeah.
You have to be in a position where you trust your franchisees are going to bring you the best possible site. You trust that through your relationship with major developers, you will be offered options that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you verify through the AI tools that these things actually do make sense for your brand, right? Because there's little things that the AI tool will never pick up on.
Correct.
That hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? There are little things that your franchisee may miss that can hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think whenever possible, if you have the ability in your process, you got to get someone out there to get eyes on the site.
For sure. 100%. Yep. Yeah. I think it's right now at a point where you need the two to kind of come together. Hey, this is
now the one thing I will say is I think the mistake a lot of people make is they fall in love with the site.
Oh yeah.
You can't fall in love with a real estate site, but a lot do, right? They're like, oh man, if I could get that site, whoa, right? And you're like, right? I remember we saw a site in one of our markets. A franchisee was like, I got to get this site. And this may be the number one site in a 20-mile radius. Classic. And I looked at him and I go, you think you're going to do double our AUV? And he goes, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, if we don't do double the AUV that we would normally do in this site at the rent that you're going to be charged and the county you're going to be charged, your pro forma is going to be negative, and then you're going to be calling me in like 12 to 18 months. Mightily unhappy.
Oh yeah.
Right. I said, I'll approve it if you want me to, because no one's going to say no to this site. But like, do you really believe you're going to do almost double our average current AUV in the system?
Yeah.
And the guy was mad for like a quick second. And then he's like, Josh, I'm going to pull the side off the table. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't fall in love with real estate. Like
No.
really all of franchising is
Yeah.
a math game. The
Yeah.
ratios either work or they don't work. And the
Yeah.
first ratio you're going to stumble upon is your occupancy. And you know, minute one, when you sign that lease, if you have the wind at your face or at your back.
Yeah. Damn, that is definitely one of the pillars that I stand on, because the profitability of the site is the top, right? I mean, if it's what it looks like, what it's next to a Whole Foods or whatever is not part of the love story there. I think the profitability is the love
Yep.
story. Do you have any experience with your personal brand playing into real estate strategy? I'm sure Shaq's name comes up in that, and you can throw his name around, but at the end of the day, it's still about the first time franchisee or the franchisee's financials and things of that nature. But any way that you've been able to leverage yourself into a relationship with a landlord using your brand?
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I believe heavily in presence, right? So, I mean, I think I've personally been in 80% of our brick and mortar units or more. And the ones I
Nice.
haven't been or annoyed I haven't gotten there, right? So knowing that, like me coming down to a site, the landlord will normally come and meet us. You know, I've met with
Yeah.
some of the bigger landlords for lunch. They see, all right, this isn't going into some weird, man behind the curtain sort of company, like CEO sitting with me for lunch. We're walking the space. We're
Yeah.
having a conversation. I think that's really key. And then the other one, I believe in big celebration. So when that lease gets signed, we love nothing more than a press release that says Shaq's Big Chicken is coming to this address, and having the developer lean in on that and us celebrating on LinkedIn and everything else. So I think the personal values come into play, but I don't really think about it that way. It's just
Yeah.
managing, you know?
It's just who you are. Yeah, it's authenticity, right? And that's what you want. Now, aside from all this personal branding talk, and I know it's a tight market, off-market opportunity, as we've mentioned, any tactical real estate strategy stuff, even base level, that maybe somebody doesn't think about when they're looking at sites, or a franchisee needs to consider when they're looking at sites?
I think the one for us in the food side of the business is making sure the space is really restaurant ready, because you'll
Mm.
end up spending a lot more money on construction, which will then hurt, your cash on cash conversion if you're
Mm-hmm.
not thinking that way, right?
Yeah.
Is there a grease receptor? Is there a plan for a grease receptor? Is that all on you,
Mm.
right? Is the hood in the right position or not? Is the HVAC right for the MEPs you're going to do? Will the bathrooms need to be moved, or are the bathrooms okay? These
Mm.
things are so little, but they kill you.
Yeah.
They literally, even something as little as like, is there a back door for trash? We looked at a site, great site,
Yeah.
and there's no back door for trash. So we're like,
Dragging them
crap.
aside.
If we approve this site, we're going to have like employees walking those monster 39-gallon trash bags out in the middle of the restaurant in
Yeah.
the middle of the lunch shift, right? So it's like all these little things that are like, was this really meant to be a
Yeah.
restaurant, right? So the number of times I get called with, it's currently a T-Mobile store, but they're moving. So I don't want to be in a T-Mobile store, man. Not unless like the T-Mobile store used to be like a Baja Fresh or something back in the day, and everything's still there, you know.
Yeah. The
I
full
don't want to
grains.
be. I don't want to be in a T-Mobile store. Find me the restaurant with the hood and the HVAC and the bathrooms all ready to go, and I can do
Yeah.
kitchen design and fit myself in. So that for me is the big one that people get really excited about stuff, and they're not thinking about the least sexy parts of this thing.
Yeah. No, I've seen deals die, or just based on electricity, right? Lack of electricity or lack of gas. Westchester County, we had no gas for
Yeah,
like 2 years.
and
So that was
then
pretty wild.
I also think like as a franchisee, and a lot of land developers right now are like, yeah, you can do a land lease and have a 20-year deal instead of a 10-year deal. That's loser for a franchisee, right? Like at the end of the day, if you are in a separate company buying the land and are going to build the building and rent the building from yourself, basically, it's like,
Yeah.
I can understand that, right? Because that's more about the land ownership and the capital improvement
Right.
on the land. Otherwise, just get a current restaurant space.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's kind of try to keep this simple. Tough to find though lately, but they're out there. I just think a lot of them are not on market right now.
Well, in the great words of Heinz Ketchup, the best things come to those who wait.
And I think that's a great place to end. Well,
Yeah.
Josh, thank you for your time. I really appreciate the insights, and good luck tomorrow, and good luck in general. Can't wait to see where you guys take this. It's super exciting.
Yeah, thank you. And now that we're part of Craveworthy Brands, it's really frenetic time, and we're just we're gearing up for a lot of big things, Big Chicken and the other brands. So a lot of exciting news to come.
That's awesome. Congratulations, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Sounds great. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.